Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the much-anticipated 21st commentary from Ost77. Today's game has been talked about for the past three episodes, actually, ever since we saw episode number 18, which is currently public as I cast this, which was the famous ZVZ that Zapper won. Actually, it was not that famous, but nonetheless. Today's game, I'm casting with such elation. I've been looking forward to it. I've talked to both sides in person, EliteLegend and Hockey, Zapper at school, and they've told me it is absolutely epic. None of this has been ruined. I did not watch it. As you may have heard, I was not present while this game was being played. I have no idea who won, and I am very excited to see. Also, a small note, when I actually launched this replay, there's a new patch for StarCraft 2, and it gave me a little message that I will be disconnected from Battle.net until after I'm done watching the replay, and I'm not sure if that's on purpose or if that's like an error message almost, but it was very useful. Because sometimes I'll get a message when I'm doing a commentary. You'll even see Husky or HD getting them, and it's just a little bit of a distraction for both you and the audience, so I think that's excellent that Blizzard was able to implement as a minor fix that goes a long way for us broadcasters and you viewers. Nonetheless, we have, of course, EliteLegend playing as his best race. He is a Platinum 1v1 Terran player up against Zapper, our blue Protoss, who is playing as his best race, though he is mostly a random player. His single best race is Protoss. He told me not by too much. He's a solid Terran, a solid Zerg as well. The Protoss is his best. Now, we do have EliteLegend opening up with the traditional Rax supply depot, while a Zapper does opt for the gateway. Both players going about their regular expected builds, but if this game is to be as epic as rumored, surely it will not go like an expected build. We have 2 gas already for EliteLegend, so there is a minor bit of excitement. His scout is failing miserably, scouting everywhere except his Protoss opponent's base. We have 2 pylons near the Nexus, and not much else in production apart from this second refinery. And EliteLegend will have to begin assigning some workers so that he can get some essential gas. So I am anticipating reactored Hellions or an early starport cloaked Banshee build, which is not necessarily quite common, but quite effective against Protoss players, unless they get a photon cannon and a pylon and 2 well-placed photon cannons. I've been doing that recently, and yes, in Season 6, I got placed in bronze. I was playing placement match, one placement match. I got cheesed with an early photon. I was able to hold that off, but then I lost to a late-game carrier, and so sadly, I'm back in bronze, and it is so frustrating because I'm beyond bronze. I will fight every single possible day I can play StarCraft to get out of this league. I am beyond bronze. Nonetheless, as I said, to avoid cheesing or just early Void Rays or Cloaked Banshees, Protoss players who are anticipating it tend to go with the pylon and the 2 well-placed photon cannons. I've done it a number of times in 1v1s, Bronze League, and the few harasses I have seen have been completely fended off. It costs about 400 minerals, but it does give you that bonus amount of supply, and so truly it's a smart investment. It can save you so much in case, especially mutas, if they're able to wipe out some workers. The mutas don't come as much of a cost to Zerg players, and they usually kill so many workers that they justify their cost in the first place. And yet, if you have 2 photon cannons and they pick off the mutas, that is indeed costing the Zerg player. So we do have a starport here built in the corner of EliteLegend's base. Some nice pylon vision here from Zapper, but he's completely exposed near these gas vents to some potential medevac drops. And we do have the reactor finished with Hellions flowing out of it. If EliteLegend was hoping for a reactor, he should have built it on the barracks, lifted the barracks off, and switched with the factory. Just a small comment there. That is a little bit of a handy trick. Ton of Terran players use it. Not sure why EliteLegend as a Platinum player would not. Zapper is slightly edging his opponent in supply, especially in maximum supply. He's got 58 to 35, but they are quite close in terms of regular supply. So we do have this tech lab on the starport, so that will most probably lead to Banshees or battle cruisers, which is quite interesting, or medevacs, something of the sort. We have some neatly placed pylons here from EliteLegend. The good double gas, of course, working well, and some saturation somewhat existing on his main, but he's not actively producing workers, and I believe his opponent is. His opponent is indeed. Let us look at the income tab. 30 to 21 harvesters. So immediately we have a economical edge for Zapper, and usually the Protoss player, not necessarily the ones behind, but with Terran players, boasting mules from that useful orbital command, they tend to be a little bit ahead. I find economically, Terran players generally tend to be in between Zerg and Protoss. The Zerg player is always the one with the most economy, but usually not enough production power. The Terran, depending on their build, will usually have a lot of production power, and with well-placed mules, a solid economy. Protoss players with a lot of warp gates or robos or stargates can have a massive production power, but their economy tends to be a little difficult to get going early game. So EliteLegend is producing workers now, one by one, but Zapper is smartly producing multiple. So we have 2 forges here, a nice investment, and as I imagine, the Banshee with cloak and no detection whatsoever for Zapper. He does have this observer now coming in right after the warp prism, and indeed the photon cannon. I'm not sure if he has any idea if there's a starport there. No, but an excellent prediction play from Zapper. This will completely fend off his opponent. His opponent is building a siege tank and cloak, almost finishing. No upgrades, however, and that may cost him late game. He does have this one Raven. Not sure for what that will serve, what purpose that will serve. Perhaps the essential detection against Dark Templar, or Hunter Seeker missiles against massive amounts of units. We do have the... Oh, I apologize. I was on EliteLegend there. We have everyone back again. I was going through their perspectives. So we only have one research here from Zapper, and this idle probe. I am totally against idle probes. Perhaps he's picking it up to drop it and build a natural. No, he's not. So maybe he's scouting, or he's going to go with the Warp Prism harass, warping in Zealots. But he will need to withdraw forces to his main. I'm not sure what he will do with the Warp Prism, but EliteLegend smartly microing some of his units. This point defense drone excellently used to fend off against the Protoss Stalker missiles, intercepting all of them, and we rarely see point defense drones in 1v1 play. Heck, in any play, but it is used well here. Look at that. It is just absorbing so much damage. It will soon fall as its health is sustaining damage. Now it has reached, I don't know exactly how this works in terms of damage absorption. I suppose it is from energy, but Zapper will fend off with some nicely placed force fields. Yet, I'm sure, if EliteLegend, no, he does not have enough energy for an auto turret, a little bit lower than that. So, a nicely held off play by Zapper. I'm liking how he was able to manage that, but EliteLegend is suddenly investing in so many production facilities. So, it ultimately comes down to the late game macro. Both players, as you can see, left and right, a very close supply. So, it is anybody's games. That failed harass was not exactly terrible. We do have a Colossus here from Zapper, and that could cost him potentially even the game. He does not have this expansion. He has an oversaturated main, and he has Colossi. They are 1-0-0, and he does have another upgrade researching, but he's not using both forges. So just some small mistakes here from Zapper. And I think the excellent way he held off against that push put him a little bit ahead of his opponent, but now he is seemingly falling behind. I do not know. Oh, he did get some Zealots into his opponent's base, so he will see these Banshees and will probably pump out a Stargate to have a counter to these Banshees, and definitely more observers if he is to be an intelligent late game player. These Zealots will be fended off, but let us check the units lost tab. So 12 workers killed for Zapper. I'm not sure how EliteLegend was able to kill 8 of his opponents. Perhaps an unseen drop. Yet Zapper took out 12. That is essential. We do have no natural from either player. Both of their mains completely oversaturated. So the 11-minute natural expand a little bit late. Yet now EliteLegend is moving out with that sustained push. He is scanning his opponent, and Zapper just has an essential lack of forces. He's warping in these mass stalkers, and he has the one observer at some point. Yet with EliteLegend's Raven detection, he could probably pick off some units. He has 2 Vikings to eliminate the Colossus, and I'm not sure where Zapper's probe is, where his observer vision is. He does have an immortal, and just investing in his heavy anti-ground build, and yet these Banshees just completely destroying him, and if EliteLegend can focus them down on the immortal, that will cost Zapper dearly. They do wipe out its shields, and siege tanks will pound this warp gate. Actually, just one siege tank, so the Vikings microed efficiently to pick off that Colossus. If they can do so, it will cost the Protoss player so much. Robotics facility units are always so very expensive. The robotics facility itself comes underpowered, and often for a Protoss player, as I said, robotics facility units are just too pricey. If you lose the Colossus or you lose the Immortal, it will cost you dearly. These Stalkers microed quite efficiently. They will not pick off the Banshee, will they? Yes, they will. And so the Siege Tank will still pound the Warp Gate. Another one moving in. And this one Banshee, I am just... Where in the world is Zapper's Observer? Is there a Units tab? I believe there is, and he does not have one. So perhaps at one point it was picked off. And SCV's in here. This Colossus is going to kill all of them. Poor micro skill here from EliteLegend. He's trying to lead the Colossus in so that it can be picked off by the Viking, but the Viking will now fall. So all he has is essentially just this one Banshee, two completely random SCVs, and now SCV Siege Tank Vision. But EliteLegend's production power is completely exceeding his opponents. Zapper is entirely contained. He just does seemingly not have enough units to maintain his force, and EliteLegend going to try to pick off the Colossus. Zapper is maintaining a solid economy. He's low on gas. He has an expansive amount of minerals, and yet he is slowly losing his production power. These siege tanks just bringing siege to his forces. The Immortal will fall here, and that will cost the Zapper so much. Marines microed around. This Colossus does not have too much health. If it falls, I believe at this point, the Colossus is the deciding factor. Stalkers coming under siege. They will try to pick off the Viking. That thing can be microed away and saved. Extremely lucky play there for EliteLegend, and his siege tanks are just... Oh, here's 3 Vikings landing. Not the brightest idea. They will be picked off if they engage the Stalkers in head-on combat, so they fly away, and yet we have no upgrades whatsoever for our Terran player, and these siege tanks will try to take out the Colossus. It is at 42 health, 30 health. One more hit, the Colossus is down. Vikings now useless. Zapper has no means to reproduce that robotics facility and or robotics bay. No, he still has the robotics bay, so he's immediately rebuilding the robotics facility with hopes that he can regenerate the Colossus, but that was just so expensive, and I'm absolutely stunned as to why EliteLegend does not have a larger production power, or a larger supply than his opponent. He's actually building a bunker here. He should be moving over to the natural expansion location and just to pick off some probes. That is quite a mistake there from EliteLegend. He should have been putting more pressure on his opponent's economy. Right now, both players are at 2 bases. Even though EliteLegend is eliminating his opponent's production power, it is just being regenerated in the corner here, and well, it at least can be regenerated in the corner here, and I'm just not sure if Zapper will be able to do it. So EliteLegend moving the tank in. Wow, he should have absolutely picked off some... he should have absolutely picked off some probes, but now Stalkers have entered EliteLegend's base, and I'm just not sure how he's going to be able to handle this. One Stalker low on health, but wow, I did not see that one coming. I guess all that EliteLegend, all that Zapper had left, he needed to put to use against his opponent. But now EliteLegend will try to push into his opponent's base once more. The main is out of minerals entirely, but the natural is saturated. So Zapper is what we like to call naturated. No Marines will fall, so this is just going to be a terrible situation for both players, however, as Zapper was able to nimbly warp in so many Stalkers and Zealots. I'm just not sure if EliteLegend will be able to hold off his base. So he is lifting off his production facilities, migrating them over. He has built the bunker encampment here. I believe it was EliteLegend who did so in the last game. He made a massive encampment to hold off against his opponent, and now he's just truly bringing absolute siege to the front line of Zapper's base, so it will ultimately prove to be a base race. Both players have massive economies, yet both are completely naturated, and Zapper completely decimating his opponent's base. There is a siege tank, a number of SCVs, 4 Marines. The production barracks is lifted off, so it will be a base race, and I'm honestly not sure as to who's going to take it. The Colossus is 1-1, and this natural will come under siege, but EliteLegend siege tank needs to put more pressure on his opponent's probes. So the population is currently one player at least. EliteLegend is currently overpopulated, while Zapper just completely wipes out all of his production facilities. Here is the Banshee, and Zapper has no form of detection, so if EliteLegend can micro this Banshee well, his opponent has no way to identify this Banshee. Will it be cloaked in time? It is not cloaked. EliteLegend, a complete mistake here. If he loses the Banshee, he does. Absolutely no offense to Elite. He's a good friend of mine, but that was awful micro. Probes now attacking the siege tank. He is trying to get it removed, but the siege tank falls. Now the attack of the killer probes. EliteLegend now microing this other siege tank, but Zapper's been able to entirely fend off the base push. Yet EliteLegend and Zapper both building new bases. This game is crazy. Tiny mistakes from EliteLegend have cost him dearly. Such as that Banshee cloak. Had he cloaked that frickin' Banshee, he could have eliminated almost all of his opponent's force. So the second siege tank falls to these probes, but the cost to Zapper's economy is actually minimal. I would expect it to be so much more. Sure, he lost some production facilities such as the cybernetics core, but his economy is so bustling, he can just warp in 1,000 zealots and deal so much damage. Now, Marines and siege tanks will probably move in to clean this force up. Yes, they will do so quite efficiently. So Zapper's main force now suddenly reduced to ash. Not even sure if he still has that warp prism. He does not. So just one Colossus, 2 stalkers, and a handful of probes. EliteLegend is looking quite good to win this one, but I'm still not ready to call it, as Zapper has prolonged his death to at least 10 minutes more than what I would have first expected it to be. He's now down 22 in supply, so I believe this hit, the little bit of a hit on probes from the siege tank. This bunker should be filled, though, from EliteLegend, so I think the hit on probes from that siege tank, and just the damage to Zapper's production power, completely cut him off. He has just these 3 warp gates, and has no means to warp anything in. I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to pull this one off. He finally does have the new base, though, so Rejuvenated Hope, StarCraft, Episode 4, A New Hope, or in my terms, a Rejuvenated Hope. Perhaps Episode 5 will be EliteLegend Strikes Back, and Episode 6, Return of the Zapper. Sounds like quite a franchise to me, but now EliteLegend will mobilize with his forces, and if he can take out this paltry force of Zappers, it will most probably change the game in his favor. Another Orbital Command producing from EliteLegend's Gold Natural. So although Zapper has re-expanded to another Nexus, it is not a gold. And I think EliteLegend will greatly benefit from that. The faster minerals, the faster gas, yet this starport placed poorly, and I think EliteLegend should be saturating both bases. Now here's a main engage from both forces. These Zealots getting to work, more warp rings in. I'm just not sure how it's going to work. Okay, micro there from EliteLegend, but the siege tank will fall, and so too will the Marines. Will they stumble upon this hidden base? I'm not sure. A handful of Zealots picked off, and Zapper was actually able to come out on top, I would suppose, from the 1-1 upgrades, as EliteLegend has absolutely 0 upgrades, and that will cost him so much. And there we have a quite obvious proclamation from Zapper: this game is awesome. Obviously, I think I've seen that for the last 24 minutes solid. From the moment that EliteLegend got the 2 gases, this has just been a pleasure to cast. At first I was like, okay, this game is going quite simply. What's so special about it? What are these massive rumors that I hear talking about from both sides about how epic it is, how close it was, how great it was? And I'm just like, what? And then 4 minutes in, that first push, everything started to get exciting again. So we have kind of a half-built base now from Zapper, and he's able to just hang on to enough of a force. He will push on his opponent's Gold Natural, and he has probably taken out so many workers. 32 for Zapper, but 25 for EliteLegend. So now EliteLegend's bases and his economical power completely stalled. But if Zapper decides to push these Zealots into this almost impenetrable line of 3 siege tanks and so many Marines, I think it may cost him a lot to lose this force. He does have a pretty solid economy, though, so I'm absolutely unsure as to who will take it. Zapper suddenly has rebounded from such a low depth that it just becomes suddenly possible for him to win it again. EliteLegend is rebuilding the main command center, but I'm not sure if it's worth it considering the amount of minerals available. And EliteLegend will go for the push. He has these 2 game-changing Banshees, but now Zapper pushing from the side. He will take off this tech lab, and EliteLegend forced back. If Zapper can eliminate almost anything, it will change the game. So if EliteLegend must re-cloak these Banshees, if they're not cloaked, they are useless. The tech lab will fall, so only a Viking produced to counter the Colossus, which is currently non-existent. I am not sure Zapper has any Colossi. He does not. So a paltry force for Zapper, but his upgrades will change it, and especially the number of stalkers he has. He's building several photon cannons. Not sure if they'll be able to hold off against a large force. He still has this ninja base, and just so many more Vikings and Banshees flying out here from not really so many more. This was his original force. I thought he had 2 already and then was building 2 more. He's building another Banshee and another Viking. I'm not sure why they're all lifted off, as his opponent has absolutely no Colossi. He scans Zapper's force, and he will probably set up a siege tank line and just contain his opponent. Little does he know, Zapper has this Ninja Expand and the one Zealot keeping vision on another. So the cloak here from EliteLegend, I'm not sure if this will work out in his favor. We do have siege tank vision now, and the observer is out for Zapper. That could make all the difference in the game, but it's all about containment right now. And here is EliteLegend pretty much spotting those photon cannons, but he will inflict so much hurt on his opponent, as now Zapper is probably forced into this siege tank contain, and his forces will take so much damage from the siege tanks. Banshee's now quickly moving in and inflicting some hurt on their opponents, and I'm just not sure if that was the smartest move from Zapper. He will crush his opponent's force, but the cost to him is dear, as that siege tank contain just wiped out so much of what he had. But again, I'm just unaware as to if EliteLegend is going to be able to hold this one or not, as this force is quite large. So Zapper's Ninja Expand has changed the game. I thought EliteLegend was well off for that push, but now that Zapper's 1/1 upgrades just made all the difference. He will see this push, but EliteLegend just has too little, and this game could be Zapper's. Our Platinum player could be losing to a silver/gold leaguer. Let us see how this goes. The force is suddenly not as big with this one siege tank. The siege tank will suddenly fall. These cloaked Banshees making quite a difference. The Marauders now engaging from a long range, and Zapper's forces are just forced into this choke point almost, and the Stalkers are wiped out. They're not focusing down on the Banshees enough, sustaining too much damage, and I just think EliteLegend might be able to hold off. No, he will not. Definitely not against this renewed force. He will probably be able to survive for a little bit with the 2 Banshees. If one of them falls, though, that will cost him a lot. It will not fall, so he does have the... Oh, no, he's not taking out the Stalker there. That one Marauder will pick it off, but the rejuvenated force from Zapper could do all too much to his opponent. EliteLegend is trying to lift off to get this Ninja Expand. If these SCVs come under siege, they could lose the game for EliteLegend, and he will probably move them into engage. One Banshee will soon fall. It does. Both of them going to fall really soon here. And I'm just almost ready to call the game here for Zapper. A GG is absolutely imminent. And he does have charge researching. I just think his response to the pressure from EliteLegend allowed him to get a fully saturated Ninja Expand, while he was able to wipe out his opponent's gold and just build up enough of a force to keep the pressure on, keep the heat on. And these Banshees, I'm just completely unsure as to whether or not they'll be able to do enough. EliteLegend does have this expansion, but he's lost all of his SCVs. So that is pretty well GG. I am expecting it any moment now. Nonetheless, excellent game. A wonder. And I have to say, this somewhat frustrates me, because Zapper has won every game he sent me on this channel. He's been telling me for weeks that he's finding a good game he's lost in, and yet I found EliteLegend, who's one of the best people I know, still loses to Zapper, and yet in direct 1v1 play, I've still beaten him in a PvP. So this makes me laugh, as EliteLegend was the clear, not necessarily the clear favorite to win. He was definitely a slight favorite to win, almost like the Giants and Patriots. The Giants did win in the end. The Patriots were slight favorites. I think it was 3.5 or something, and they ended up losing, but it wasn't a massive surprise. So EliteLegend and Zapper, I would say EliteLegend would be the 3.5 point favorite, but if Zapper were to win, it would be like, okay, that's sensible. That makes some sense. Different story if we have, say, EG Idra against Zapper. Okay, maybe it might be a little bit more than a 3.5 chance, and if Zapper were to beat EG Idra, I may have an eyebrow raised. So we do have the base coming under siege, and this will definitely be GG for EliteLegend. It is a common courtesy to say such at the end of a game, and so he's just going to first ask, did you have 3 bossways? I'm sure he means bases, but let's just say bossways. It's the new style. And Zapper said top right. What if EliteLegend actually had a Ninja Expand of his own, and Zapper thought he had beaten him, but he hadn't? And then EliteLegend said, okay, there's your top right base, let me go kill it, thanks for the info. So that would be pretty funny, nonetheless. EliteLegend has no such hidden base, and then so EliteLegend saying, wow, scanned every single base except there. A little bit of a bad luck situation for him. He has no forces left, only a paltry building, and so EliteLegend citing that's really sad. These two players are so very talented. This was a work of art to watch, and there we go. Elite Legend saying that's GG, then well played, and Zapper with the thank you GG. So very courteous from both players. And Elite Legend saying I played so bad it's embarrassing. I'd definitely love to see a rematch of the two. That would be quite interesting to see. And so Elite Legend pretty much telling us exactly why he lost the game. That is quite right. But I think the fact that he did not spot this expand ultimately led to his demise. His immediate response pressure, as I call it, just lost him the game. Generally, if you beat a player's main and they have not GG'd, you scan every base, you run to every base. He had a small force. He could have run it to every base and watched out for the seeds being sown for this new expansion. And also a small mishap from Elite Legend. He had taken out his opponent's main economy. Zapper's minerals had run out, and he did not put pressure on the natural resources. If he had taken those siege tanks, moved them up to the probe line, and just taken out a bunch of probes when Zapper had no military left, maybe he wouldn't have won the game directly, but I can almost guarantee you late game he would have won, because Zapper would probably not have had enough minerals to build the ninja expand in the first place, because he'd invest so much in military to hold off against that push. So as I had mentioned before, that one siege tank, there were actually 3 at the time, could have moved up to the mineral line, taken some free kills, and as you can see by our units lost tab, 74 workers killed to Zapper to 26. I mean, that is a very rough estimate, as we don't really factor in the workers Zapper killed at the end of the game, because the game had already been won by that point. Nonetheless, I will not drag this on any further. It was an excellent game to cast. Thanks so much to both players for playing it. It was played originally for this channel. Thank you very much for sending it in. That is Zapper. He did send it in. And for not ruining it for me and telling me who won. And thank you, most importantly, to you guys for watching my videos constantly. It goes a long way. This is Austin77 signing out. I will see you in episode number 2.